Hello, how are you? Lovely to see your smiling faces, shining and bright and eager. Well, my dear children, today the story has an air of mystery, and I leave it to you whether you believe it or not. But it adds spice and flavor to your life, and unusual things do happen in life, don't they? And they add flavor to life. So the name of the story is Secrets. One morning at school, Rohan got every single sum wrong. Then he dropped a bottle of ink on the floor and it splashed on his teacher's white canvas shoes. Oh, bother. When he made a face behind his teacher's back, he was seen, so he had to be punished. Here, take this letter to your father and go home, his teacher said after writing a long and angry letter. Let him punish you as well. Rohan tried to look too proud to care and picked up his books and walked out of the schoolyard and up the narrow city lane. But once he reached the big grey banyan tree, he sat down in his shade, hiding himself in the folds of the great trunk, and sobbed a little with anger. He had not been able to get his sums right, although he had tried. He had dropped the ink bottle by accident, and not to spoil the teacher's white shoes. I believe him. Perhaps it was bad of him to pull a face, but how could he help it when things were going so badly? Now he was afraid to go home and hand the letter to his father, who would be very angry and beat him up, as he sometimes did. So Rohan hid there in the folds of the grey-green trunk and poked with a stick at the seeds dropped on the ground by the parrots that ate the red berries of the tree. He was so angry and afraid that he poked and poked with the stick till he had dug quite a deep hole in the dust. In that hole, he found a little grey lump of rubber, a plain piece of rubber that some other schoolboy might have dropped there long ago. He picked it up and rolled it about between his fingers. I wish it were a magic rubber, he said, sobbing a little. I would rub out the whole school like this, like this, like this. And he stepped out to look down at the lane at the boys' school that stood at the end of it, and angrily rubbed the air with a grey lump of rubber. Then he stopped, his hand still in mid-air, his mouth wide open, and his hair began to stand up on his head, as it did on his neighbor's cat back when he saw his dog. Something very, very strange had happened. The school had vanished. He had really rubbed it out. My God, the tall three-storied house on its left was still there, and on the other side, the tin roof warehouse where timber was stacked stood there too. But in between them, where the school had been, there was now a patch of earth. Nothing there. There was no white school building, no deep verandas, no walls, no schoolboys. There was just a square of bare brown earth between the other buildings. Rohan's knees were shaking. He ran a little way down the road to see better, but still could find nothing but a blank where the school once had been. He felt so afraid, snatched up his books and the terrible rubber from among the roots of the banyan and ran into the road where he lived. And he hurried up the stairs at the side of the little yellow house to his room on the roof. His mother was alone at home. She was kneading dough in a big brass pan. The fire was not yet lit. You're early, she said in surprise. I haven't any food ready for you yet, but you can go and break up an old box and get me some wood to light the fire. I'll warm some milk for you. Hurry up, don't look so sulky. she said, and began to roll the thumb and dough in the pan. Then Rohan pulled out an old crate to pieces and brought through those pieces into the grate with such force that the ashes and grit flew up and settled on all the pots and pans and the dough. His mother was so angry. She shouted, "What's the matter with you, you rascal? Look what you've done. What a mess you made. Now go and fetch the broom and sweep it up at once." "I won't sweep," he shouted back as loudly as though there were a devil in him, shouting for him. She was still more angry. "I won't sweep it up either. Let it lie there, and then your father will see it when he comes home." Then Rohan felt so afraid that he held up the magic rubber and cried, "I won't let you do that. I won't let him see it. I'll rub you all out." And he swept through the air with the lump of rubber as hard as he could. He shut his eyes, and when he opened them, the whole house with unlit fire, the brass pan, the glass of milk, and even his mother had vanished. There was only the rooftop blazing in the afternoon sun. Now Rohan did not know what to do. He did not have a home or a mother or even a glass of milk. His mouth hung open. He was so frightened by what he had done. He ran down the stairs as fast as he could, so that his father would not come and find him standing alone. He heard an excited bark and saw it was his dog Carlo, who had been sleeping in the shed. Carlo was also frightened at the way their room had disappeared and the rooftop left standing empty. He started following Rohan. Rohan was afraid. So he shouted, "Go back, Carlo, go back." But Carlo ran towards him. So Rohan rubbed the air with his rubber again. "I don't want you, go away." And Carlo vanished. But someone had seen him, an old man who traded in empty tins and bottles. He had just started his evening round, and while shouting "tin and ball," stopped short and stared till Rohan, rubbing in the air with his rubber again, shouted, "You can't see, you mustn't see." And that old man also just a bit disappeared as Carlo had. Then Rohan turned and ran even faster. He ran into the big road. Then he remembered he might meet his father on the way. So he whirled around and ran towards the banyan tree. He was trembling. He hid there. "I'll hide this terrible rubber," he said at last. "I'll put it back in the hole and never take it out again." With shaking fingers, he scraped more dust from the little hole in order to bury the rubber. As he scraped and dug with trembling fingers, he found something else in the hole. He dug harder and found it was a pencil. He could see no one had used it before. He stopped crying, but he was trembling, and as he wondered who could have buried a pencil here and whether it was a magic pencil, as the rubber was a magic one. He had to try and see it. And then he dropped the rubber and ran, and he held up the pencil and pointed at the bare patch of the earth where once the school had been. And then he did it very carefully. He drew the lines, the great white building and the walls and the classrooms and the veranda. And lo and behold, and then, or was it, then he blinked, the grey white building really was there now, or it was only a picture. The grey white building was there. Oh my God. He stood up and ran a little way down the lane. Now in the clear sunlight he could see the school. Oh God. He stood there till he saw the teacher come out, and then he stood in the middle of the dusty road and quickly drew a picture of the little black dog in the air. And as he was still working on it, he saw him bounce down onto the road on his 4 feet and come pelting towards him. "Woof, woof!" And he shouted, "Carlo, Carlo," and patted him hastily. then went on busily with his pencil, drawing the old tin and bottle man. As he was just drawing the big sack, he heard the cracked voice. Oh, bottles and tins. And there he was, shuffling down the road. Then, okay, now I'll see you soon.